Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Rabbit Trail Podcast. This is episode number 186.
186.
Thank you, Brent. Hey, we're just glad you're joining with us, and this is the podcast where we're going to chase the truth wherever it runs. My name is Greg Harris. I'm the senior pastor at the church that sponsors the podcast. That's Olive Branch Community Church, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick up on the topics that were dropped in the last couple of sermons and kind of go wherever they roam. In fact, it's we're going to talk about a lot about heaven today, so I'm excited about that. We're super glad that you joined us and that you're jumping on board.
Yeah, I'm Theressa Harris, and if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and email us at rabbittrail@obcc.com.
Church.
Yes. All right, and my name is Brent Branchard. I am the connections pastor here at Olive Branch Church. And again, whatever format you watch or listen, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, like it. It's going to help boost our presence on online, and don't forget, if you hear one of them, feel free to share them with people that you think might be interested in hearing it too. Sharing is caring.
And silence is.
Where did I get that?
Silence is violence.
Where was that? Where did that come from?
Sharing, probably kindergarten.
Care Bears? I don't know.
Care Bears,
Maybe.
yeah.
I think it's Care Bear.
It's a Care Bear countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I know that. All right, so anyway, what have you guys been up to other than singing the Care Bear song? I know what we were up to. So
Yeah, what were we up to?
we got to go to San Antonio.
We already talked about that.
No, we didn't. We did not talk about San Antonio. I talked about
I'm
the sermon.
pretty sure we did.
Really? Because we haven't been on since Matt preached.
Huh?
Maybe you're right.
Maybe you just talked about it off the air. So
Maybe. I'm sorry.
your worlds collide.
No, I think we said we were going, but we did go. So we got to go down there, and we saw the senior pastor who founded the church. His name was Ike Riddle, and it's cool. He's like neat, amazing man. It's probably reminds me all the time just seeing his energy at 79, even though he is hurting with fibromyalgia and other stuff, and it only has that energy for about 5 hours a day now. It's just the internal energy this man has is incredible, and it proves to me I could never plant a church. I have to come after a church planter because my gosh, it's just he built a church. And it's stinking incredible. I honor goes to that man. It's just super, super cool. So we got a chance to go there, but it was also like you pick amazing times to go to places. Do you want to explain kind of what we ran into? And we were down at the Riverwalk.
We were down at the Riverwalk, and it was very busy. There were parades and floats and kind
flowers everywhere.
Something's happening, and it says Fiesta everywhere. And I guess it's like the biggest holiday that they have down there. Wow. So it's the busiest weekend that they have every year.
I looked it up. It is called the Battle of the Flowers Parade, and it's the founding cornerstone event of the Fiesta San Antonio. And it's held on April to honor the heroes of the Alamo. And so of Goliad and San Jacinto, and it's like the nation's second oldest parade.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, so we got to see that randomly.
So crowded.
It was crazy, but it was pretty cool.
But it was very fun.
Yeah.
Wow. For me, I know I mentioned I was going, but I went to the third day concert.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot that we were not going to record last week, so I wore my third day shirt, and so it was their 30-year celebration of their first album. And as you know, Third Day is one of my favorite bands of all time. Mm-hmm. They played everything. They were amazing. It was a great night. And then, and also in the last couple of weeks, we had some friends over to our house for dinner, got to visit and hang out. That would be you two. And, and just as close as we are and working together, how hard it is to get together. I'm
sure everybody's had that kind of experience.
It was very fun. Other than losing, I had fun.
Yes. Losing
you and my wife made me lose. Yeah, all three of us are the losers. Nancy won. So kudos to Nancy. If you're listening, congratulations.
I don't want to brag, but Nancy kind of won the lottery of life, 43 years ago. So
she's a winner every day.
Yeah, exactly. Every day. So.
All right, Brent, where are we going? What's going on here?
All right. So again, we finished the travel plans, right?
Yeah.
That was the name of the sermon series, Travel Plans. And your sermon was the New Jerusalem. The week before, Matt talked about heaven. I forgot the title.
He kind of called it On Arrival or something like that. Yeah.
And so that those 2 weeks were all about heaven. So that will be the general topic for today. And I will say this: last time we met, I think on the podcast, I mentioned that the fact that I always look at the blanks and I always like, okay, I'm going to fill this in because I know what Greg's going to say. I mean, I've known you for 25 plus years. Yeah. I feel like I know you, and I'm never right? So the blank was, we will blank a renewed reality. And so I'm just like, okay, well, this is a gimme. I got this one. We will live eternally in a renewed reality. And it was renewed. We will live renewed in a renewed reality. I thought, no, that couldn't be. That's redundant. So you must have made a mistake. But yes, again, I was wrong. And I thought I had the perfect. I think you need to
run them
confer
by you first.
With me. Like, what should the blanks be?
You write it.
Yeah, exactly.
According to you. And our
Yes. And if anybody doesn't know, every time I do a membership class, I always joke around that I write Greg's sermons. But all right. So one of the things that Matt brought up,
preached first. Yeah. So.
He preached first. But one of the things I thought was interesting was he brought up 2 Peter 3:9. You know, and this isn't necessarily about heaven. It's more about us living on this fallen, broken earth. And it talking about evil. And really, it was this passage that brought me to a point where it's like, I don't have a problem with evil, you know. I know? Yeah. In fact, I endorse it. No. But, you know, I mean, I hear a lot of people, you know, that is a problem with God, is the fact that evil exists and he doesn't stop it. You know, is he not powerful enough to stop the evil and therefore I can't believe in your God? Or is he so heartless that he allows evil because, you know, yeah, he stop it. He just allows it. Well, that makes me feel a lot better. You know, no, you know, if you could stop it and you don't, that seems wrong, you know, but this passage right here is, you know, God is not slow to fulfill his promise, but patient towards you in not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. And it really was that concept that made me okay with evil in the world, you know, in the sense that I don't feel that it impugns God's character. And I can get into that in a minute, but I just kind of wanted to, you know, hear what you might have to say on that topic.
Yeah, I think that I like that, how you're approaching it, because typically it's not that he's not powerful enough to stop it. Most of us would argue that, no, it's the cross that proves that he did stop it. He was willing to bear that sin on himself to punish it, and then the rest of it's going to be cleaned up at the judgment. So God's very active in dealing with evil. And then there's the free will argument, right? So God gives us free will. We choose to do evil. And so as you've mentioned before in some of your classes, like you would talk about like, okay, well, where would you want him to begin? You want to cover that one? You know,
which one?
When somebody would ask you, like in starting point, like what about the evil? You know, it's like, what evil would you have them eliminate?
When I would teach starting point years ago, you know, I'd always ask that question. If you could ask God one question, what would it be? And it was always the problem of evil. You know, why do you know? And so really, I just would walk them down. You know, that path is like, okay, say that God is willing to stop evil, right? Then what evil would you want him to stop? Because here's the deal. If he's going to stop evil, he needs to judge evil, right? He needs to judge sin. And therefore, basically, he has to judge us, you know? And then it's over with. The judgment is there, and we can't move forward from that. So again, if he just says, okay, well, I'm not going to judge all evil right now. I'm just going to, what would you want him to do? And it's always like, well, I want him to stop the evil in the world against the innocents, you know, good people that are getting harmed by bad people, you know, and then it just whittles all the way down to babies. You know, I just want God to protect the children from being hurt. They're the most innocent. And I said, okay, so you really just like, for the most innocent, you want God to intervene and not allow that to happen. And they're like, yes. And that would satisfy you. Yes. Okay. Then here's the problem with that. Jesus was the most innocent. He lived the most innocent life. He was the most innocent being. And for God to stop brutality against an innocent being would mean there is no fix for your sin. You will die in your sin and you will be separated from God forever. Is that what you want? And then you just see their legs, and so again, and if God's going to just judge all sin right now, and be done with it, let me ask you this: are you ready for that? Do you have children? Do you have parents? Do you have loved ones that don't know Christ? And if God was to act right now, they're going to hell. Is that what you want? Your parents, your kids, to go to hell right now so God will end this? And they're like, well, no, wait until, and I'm like, now you understand the heart of God.
Right. And that's where this verse comes in, right? Because you're saying that he's not slow to fulfill his promise, but he's patient.
Right.
Because he doesn't want, I know this is huge. He wishes that no one should perish.
Right.
And that word perish can be translated like simply, we say anyone should go to hell.
Right.
So he's waiting, giving everybody a chance for repentance. Yeah. And so, it really does help kind of put a pin on that problem of evil, especially in the way that you structure. I really like that answer, the way you do that.
Oh, cool.
I think that you still have to have, most people still have to kind of give that over to the Lord and say, and trust that the work God is doing is worth all the evil in the world. Because for me, my struggle isn't
philosophically
evil. My struggle is existence, right? And so okay, is it all worth it? And I think that you have to, even as a Christian, I don't know that I always feel satisfied with all the answers. I just have to trust that, okay, knowing from scriptures, knowing from my life and from other people's lives, I do trust that God is good. Mm-hmm. And so I have to trust that ultimately the work he's doing, in the end, we will know that it was worth the pain that occurred.
When you put it at your terms of existence, I always want to step back and say, do you realize just when you put it in those terms, it's is this really worth it? You got to really trust him. It's God is we forget that stepping into salvation is such a huge risk in some ways, because it's an invitation to a relationship, right? The only way that I feel like I can trust that all the evil that exists in this world and that he has allowed us to exist actually is worth it is because I know him. Mm-hmm. It's in my getting to know him. It's in my walking in the scriptures. It's in my really experiencing him in my pain that I'm you know what? God chose to make me. This is incredible. I can't believe that he would choose, even though it's a hard world, chose to make me. And then studying heaven just helps me understand his promises and these things. And it's but if you don't know him, that's a big risk. That's a big risk. You really, really have to grapple with the cross and go this is God loving me. You have to meditate, that has to sink in. And that's why it is miraculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that the one thing that you said, and I love that perception, is satisfying. It's not satisfying, it's not, I mean, it doesn't matter that, okay, this is the truth, but it's not going to be going, oh, okay, now I'm totally good with it.
Now I'm okay with all the children being tortured.
And that's the thing, I parents who lose their child or whatever, and they're I just want to know why. And, and I know Greg said it, but I feel I say it too. It's just if God came down and told you why, it would not be satisfying. Yeah.
No amount of words.
Yeah, no amount of words would satisfy you and the grief and the loss of what's going on. But that idea of, okay, yes, I want God to deal with it. I want God to come and judge right now. But wait, first let me, talk to so-and-so and get them to be a believer, and then he's free to come. Yeah, that is the heart of God.
That's why God doesn't give you a satisfaction in his answer, but he gives you his presence and he gives you promises. Mm-hmm. His presence is there as a God of comfort.
And I think that he wants us to know him. Mm-hmm. He reveals himself to us. He's calling us to know him. And I think that as we enter into a relationship with him and we study his word, we realize he is good and we can trust that nature. But then also from your sermon a while back, I don't remember when it was, talking about he's so just. And like he's going to make right those wrongs. And so then trusting not just in his goodness, but in his justice.
And so he gives us these promises, right? So I think that especially with children, there's a greater comfort. Like if they're adult children, they make a decision. Even parents, they wrestle with losing their kid, but it's like, oh my gosh, they made these decisions. And there's a bit of regret and horror and all that stuff. But if we understand that human beings have choice, then we don't necessarily blame God as much as we blame the sin. However, if it's like a baby or something where we've lost, there is this. That's
baby
where
born with cancer,
right?
And,
they suffer, and
the
they
tsunami in Japan where 200,000 people died in one day.
Yeah, I don't like statistical evils because it lumps too many factors together. Yeah. When it's an individual evil, it's like a situation that needs care and comfort. God's presence is there, and then his promise. Like I think that's where we start talking about heaven again, and we get heaven so messed up. We get it so watered down that it isn't a comfort. And when I was given the book Heaven by Randy Alcorn, when my mom died at the age of 60.
Thank you, Aunt Becky.
Yes, thank you, Aunt Becky. That book was like God's presence was with me, but it really was a balm. It was reminding me of the future, that I've got more years because my mom knew Jesus. I've got more years coming to hang out with my mom, who I really enjoyed, than I ever had before. Not only that, all the wounds and messes between me and my mom that were existent will be dealt with and gone. I'll know my mom in her best. She'll know me in my best. And so that's the part that I look so forward to. And it helped bring a comfort and level. That baby will be known fully and completely. That baby may even, in some sense, Randy Alcorn argues, perhaps he speculates, that in the millennium, if the millennial reign exists, that those children will be resurrected and they'll be raised by the parents who are Christians. If they were Christians, didn't have children, they will have a chance to raise these children. There's all kinds of interesting speculations he makes, but there's some beautiful redemption that in the midst of our evil, the emotional part of the evil, that I found heaven brings a lot of comfort.
I think one of your first things that you said was having the right perspective on heaven sets how you handle earth. And I loved that, and I thought of the book Heaven too, because we both read it when your mom passed away, and I think for the first time it was like really pondering heaven in a deep way and like longing for it. Like
it's appetizers. Here's the chips.
And I will say, I heard somebody talking years ago, and I think it was a pastor somewhere that was talking about it, but he was talking about the apostles, and when you look at their life of sacrifice, and you look at Paul and just all of what Paul went through, and then you're just going like, how in the world can these guys do this? Just the beat down after beat down, and not just physically, but being stumped, and they just keep going forward with joy, and and it's like, how in the world did they keep moving forward? And they said, because their minds were so fixated on the next life, that this life was not. And I feel like we have such a tight grip in our culture on this life, and we don't even really contemplate what heaven could be like, or that next life. So this is the life we know. This is the life we have a death grip on, and feel like this is the end all be all of everything. When I think that if we focused more on what being in the presence of God would be like, what heaven could be like, I think it might help loosen our grip on this life and allow us to take chances and to take risks, and and be more on mission.
I'll be honest, when it comes to like Matt's sermon, and we talk about the 1,000-year reign of Christ, if it is a true, like, nobody, I think, would argue it's like literally 999 and 300, if it's like 365, it's like, no, it's a schematic term for a very long time. I'll be quite honest. While I may hold somewhat to a millennial reign as I study the scriptures, I get a little disappointed. Like, I don't want to be resurrected. And sitting around on an unresurrected earth, managing a bunch of sinful people, Jesus is ruling and reigning, and it'll be great and it'll be beautiful, but it's not eternity yet. Like, I think I'm just going to be like, can I skip this part? Can I just go straight to the, like, we're resurrected. Yeah. Like, I don't want to wait around on 1,000 years. I love you, Jesus. This is awesome. I can't wait to see the Father. I can't wait to go. Cannot. So there's a tension in my heart about the 1,000-year reign.
And what is the purpose of the 1,000-year reign?
And that's what I was going to say. Just kind of explain some of the different positions on the millennial reign and stuff like this. Because, again, when I became a Christian and I was going to Calvary Chapel, and they kind of have, what I think is traditional dispensationalist view of there's the rapture, there's the 7 years, then there's the return of Christ, then there's a 1,000-year reign of Christ, and then ultimately it will all come to pass. But I feel like I heard mixed messages, like that 1,000-year reign wasn't for the believers that were raptured, right? It was for the people that endured through the 7 years, who maybe gave their life to the Lord, and then during that 1,000 years, after that, Satan is released and he can tempt those, and then those may fall away or affirm that they're gods. Would that release of Satan be with all believers, raptured or not, or would it be just those people that? I don't really understand.
That's the detail stuff that there's no real understanding. Like, people will tell you, yeah, this is what it is. But to be honest, it's a lot of interpretation, because the 1,000-year reign shows up in the middle of a chiasm structure. So chiasm is A and A prime. So they're like, if you're watching on the video, you see my hands. If you're not, I got my hands up next to my head. So it's like I got my right hand equal to my left hand. So I've got a right hand, and then the left hand is going to mirror it, but it's at the end of the story. But then there's a B movement, which is my hand going down a step, and then another step that mirrors on the other side. And the right in the middle is the important piece that everybody wants to focus on. Well, in this section on the 1,000-year reign, you've got the fall, you've got Babylon described, which is the city of earth and its disgusting fallenness empire. Well, that mirrors the coming down of the New Jerusalem, which is the city of heaven. Well, mirrored under that is the fall of Babylon. Under that is the coming of the judgment of and the victory of the saints. And then right in the middle is the coming of Christ in the 1,000-year reign. So right in that bottom spot. And so people are like, okay, well, that's the centerpiece. Is this... So the question is, who goes into that, right? So it depends on what viewpoint you take. So the three main ones are, we'll just go amillennial, which means there's no millennium. It's kind of, it's just a text that's representing symbolically the reign of Christ that is currently going on. It's just the reign of Christ in general. And people go like, well, Satan doesn't seem bound. Well, yeah, he kind of is. The spiritual powers are losing their power in the world. Christ's church is gaining power. There's like these kind of arguments on millennialism.
That's kind of like now on Earth.
Yeah. Okay. We're in the millennium. Okay. There is no millennium. Right. It's a symbol for what we're in. Okay. Post millennialism is that the church is going to ever conquer greater and greater and greater, and then there will be this overwhelming reign of the church on earth in which Christ is reigning through the church. He may not be here physically, but he's reigning through the church. And so postmillennialism is based on, well, you look at the progress of history, and if you look at the progress of the West, it is the overcoming of Christian virtues and Christianity, so that the people who had enough vision to look back at the Romans, which is funny because a lot of people who held the post-millennial perspective were people classicists. That means somebody who used to read Roman, Latin texts, Greek texts, Persian texts. They knew what the world was like. And they're like, nope, Christianity is clearly becoming victorious. Christianity is clearly the dominant culture and reality. We're going to succeed in conquering the world, and then Christ is going to reign through us for 1,000 years. That was their vision. Then World War II happened, and pretty much nobody holds to that viewpoint anymore. Because Christianity was like decimated by World War II in Europe. And the church divided and turned into this liberal side and this like conservative. So all the mess, right? Premillennialism is like a response. It grew in the 1800s. by a guy named John Darby. And Darby, premillennialism exists all the way early church fathers too. And that means there is a whole bunch of stuff that's going to happen, and then there's a true millennial reign, but we're in this time before a millennium. And there's historical and this other dispensational. So there's all these other weird little viewpoints. I'm trying not to bore you guys because this can go super complicated. Like Matt kind of showed some diagrams. All you need to know is if it is an actual millennial reign, it is representing the reign promised to the Jewish people, that their Messiah would rule the world, that Jesus would rule with an iron rod over the nations. And so there are these resurrected people. Now the question is, those resurrected, are they all Christians? Are they just those who were beheaded in the persecutions or throughout history in persecution? Everybody who didn't take the mark of the beast, which would argue it's all the Christians, because anybody who, that like not the true mark of the beast, but the mark of the beast is living in the way of the world. And so is this the rewards? Do the rewards come to some Christians who rule and reign in the millennium, but not all Christians are resurrected at that point? They get to come back later. And then, so whatever it is, that's debated. The millennium is not real. There's some who will try to describe what's going on, but there's debates over which Old Testament promises fit in the millennium and which ones fit in eternity. What we would basically have to argue is that it is Christ ruling and reigning from Jerusalem through the church on the nations and the Jewish people over the world, that there is a reduction in death and a reduction in rebellion against Christ. Not that everybody believes, but that they're being ruled by Christ. We're acting like the angels do now, the fallen angels do now. So there are no fallen angels, no spiritual beings left. They're locked away. And so we, as the sons and daughters of God, the siblings, the children, the family of God, are ruling the nations as resurrected beings. And those who are unresurrected are having their lives and doing their things. And we're kind of
And the world is still in a fallen state.
Yeah, the world is still in a fallen state, which is why I'm like, just fast forward me to eternity. But some argue this is the promise given that Christ would rule and reign. And it will prove that while in the first era, the Father ruled through Israel, and mankind sinned. The law didn't.
Mankind rejected God.
Yeah. And when the Spirit of God is ruling and reigning in the hearts of people, there's this great church and this glorious time,
now.
But mankind rejects God. And so when Christ rules and reigns on earth physically, even though you have his physical presence, he's clearly God, man still will reject him. And so there has to be a full rejection of God completely for God's final punishment to come upon humanity. That's a theological argument for the millennium.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
Yeah, kind of one of those thrown at me in seminary that kind of came back one day, and I'm like,
Stuck in your head.
Ah, that's crazy. So, I mean, all we know is it's clear as mud.
Yeah.
Right? So, good.
And it's dangerous to get hyper fixated on it. Like that's something you had mentioned earlier. Like when it gets to this stuff, do you want to?
Yeah, I think that some people, in the Calvary sect, get really, really hyper fixated on what's going to happen in the end times. And even growing up at I won't say the name, but I grew up in a youth group. And, they were really big on end times. And I was told that I would never get married. I would never have kids because Jesus is going to come back. And a lot of things that were said were actually false, but nobody ever kind of was held accountable. And they were just claiming that they knew. And it was all my friends wanted to be martyred. And it was just a very strange time. But I think that, you get so fixated on it, it becomes a central part of your Christianity rather than the gospel itself, rather than being saved.
And I want to take us back to the first series that we did in January, which was called Source Code. And the answer in Source Code, as we talked about some of these things, is, Christ is coming back.
Right.
Yeah. Christ,
that's the point. All of these positions believe that Jesus Christ is returning. That's orthodoxy. Everything else is speculation, and it can be a lot of fun to talk about. It can be a lot of not fun to talk about, depending on your personality. But it is not something to divide the church over.
Right.
So
yeah, and I mean, you always run into the people that feel like this is doctrine, other than Christ coming back, right? Just how everything's going to work out. This is doctrine, and if you believe anything else, then you're wrong, and you're not believing the word of God. And it's like, well, cool your jets, people. There are a lot of different views out there that are within the orthodoxy, and we need to be okay with
Disagreeing,
different.
yeah.
And I would say when I first became a Christian in 1979, I was all caught up in the end times and trying to, look at the newspaper and like, whoa, and just figuring out, oh my gosh, okay,
Chernobyl means wormwood.
It's talking about these metal, these metal locusts, and they're going to cause us pain and death, and
Those are
then-
helicopters.
Yeah, those are helicopters for sure. I mean, we got this figured out, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe they're drones, and then it's like, the barcode, that's the mark of the beast, the barcode, no
QR.
the chip, and it's like, okay,
And it's coming from Norco. It's
yeah.
like,
But you get so dogmatic in these things that just become nonsense, in a few years, and so I really kind of got to
the
a
image of
point
the beast is
where-
AI, by the way.
Yeah, AI.
I'm just kidding.
I just really got to a point where I'm like, I'm done with it. I know Christ is coming back. I want to look forward to Christ coming back, but I don't want to sensationalize it in the sense that replaces the gospel, and moving on from, instead of talking about the gospel, instead of caring for people, I want to just preach to you the end times, and it becomes sensational in the sense too, I think, that it's like, oh, hey, we want to, grow church numbers. Let's talk about the end times, and everybody will come, and everybody will listen. And it's like,
I feel like there's I don't know if this is true, but it feels like there's two people. There are people that love talking about it and the people that hate talking about it. Because when you were a youth pastor, that was the number one requested topic was
Yes.
Revelation. I can't tell you how many times the kids wanted to go through Revelation, and I'm like, I'm the opposite. Like, I don't want to talk about this.
yeah, I'm neither.
I mean, I've grown, but
I don't mind talking about it, but I don't want to get dogmatic about what I think that it's going to happen. And I just feel like, and probably, maybe you have a rebellious heart a little bit like me, but when people get too enamored about something, it's almost like, okay, it's always like, I grew up loving heavy metal. I had long hair, and you found that band that is just amazing and nobody else knew about. And then as soon as they got popular, you're like, they're sellouts. I don't like them anymore.
Right. I think that the biggest thing that I would argue that end times comes at the end. There's a lot of stuff to study and to get understood before you even attack it. Most people I know are, and I'm going to say this in the way that's going to sound pejorative, but I don't have a better term. They're parrots. They haven't actually dove in and studied all the different viewpoints to kind of be able to grasp what's going on. Most people who actually do write in the book of Revelation, who actually do write commentaries, who engage deeply in these debates, they really know all the different positions, and they've come to their arguments and reasons why. The further we've gotten, even those positions have devolved to the point that right now in seminaries, dispensationalism is the Calvary Chapel model is not taught in any seminary, conservative seminary really in the United States that has kept up with the conversations, because it's now in a third movement where both the amillennial and amillennial, reformed amillennialism is not held in the same way anymore. So if you're hearing people being dogmatic, they're just not up on where these people who are experts in this topic are even going. They're both kind of going like, well, you guys have some points. Well, you guys have some points. And it's starting to meld into a very more like less systematically cohesive mold. It's kind of, and so I just warn people, like, that's what you got taught because that's what your pastor taught. Remember, your pastor got taught 40 years ago, probably, and that 40 years ago, including me, like 20 years ago, I was in seminary, and my professors were teaching their cutting edge stuff from 20 years ago, which is improving on 20-year-old doctrine themselves, right? So it's like you're always getting a little behind when you're in the church because pastors can't keep up with the stuff. So just that's just to say, be humble with it. Just be humble with it.
And yeah, be humble. But let me ask you this. Okay, these pastors that learned this stuff 40 years ago, they were taught by people that learned it 20 years before them. So this is old news. Now we've got all this new research and these new, guys looking at stuff. And so they're looking at these things differently, so we need to be listening to with the conversations that are going on today. But I've seen a lot of times, like people that are university level theologians, right? and they sit in these think tanks and they talk and they get really out of bounds, theologically, because they're focused on this, this and that and this historical stuff. And then it's just like they're almost like you're heretical now, and they're like, well, no, I'm more advanced and more educated, and you're stuck, So how do you protect yourself from like being in the current conversations of what's going on in the debates, but also not just going, well, that's old news. We don't need that anymore.
Well, and also you've said that if it's new, it's probably heresy.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying, that it's like, what if it's new in the source code, it's probably heresy. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is that if you understand the source code, you understand what's called technically the kerygma, the preaching of the Word of God in its outline, as shown in the creeds, as put in these categories that the church has historically known. And you start saying, well, the Father isn't, there are actually three beings. Like, well, just because it fits your end time scheme, you're not a Christian anymore, right? That's breaking the source code. If you claim that, well, Jesus never coming back, he's already come back in 70 AD. Nope, sorry. And so now if they're getting in, if you start redefining sin, or you start, that's like you're out of bounds. The boundaries stay the same. It's inside the bounds of the box that we have fun to explore and speculate. Your speculation should not lead you outside of the box. But you're correct. There are some professors who get over their own skis because they're focused on a particular subject or topic or even particular scripture. And the wise ones will tell you, like, they'll say, that's not my subject. I'm really not good at that. And those are the guys I love. Those are the guys you trust. But they're going to be your armchair theologians. There's going to be your master's degree guys like me and like others that I'm not an expert in times. That's why I try to be careful and like, I'm going to give you all the options, give you everything I've known. But this is what I do know about what's going on in the world of those people who are arguing through these things. Dr. Bach and Blazing and Sosi and some of these people, the places that were preaching the dispensational position, Moody, Talbot, Dallas Theological Seminary, there's a bunch of these. They've moved past that, and they're to be not past it, but they've refined it again, and it's already been refined. Like the one that we're getting from Calvary Chapel is actually a refined version of the 1800s version, which you could find more faithfully in a Jehovah's Witness preaching than you would in not the 144,000 thing, but like some people, the Jews get the new earth and the Christians get the new heavens. Like that was what was originally in dispensationalism. So it's this kind of like, yeesh. So the refinement continues. So that's all. We should move on from this subject.
But okay,
Please.
so now we're getting into heaven, and I got written here, one of the thing, and I think it was Matt that said it too, but he was talking about, the sheep on the left, and I've prepared a place for you, and I mean, there's a passage that Jesus, I go before you, and I build a mansion, and I prepare a place for you, and that's for the believers, right?
Yeah.
And then hell was basically, I prepared this for
The devil and
Satan and his angels, right? Not for you. So his heart is for us all to join him in heaven. And one of the things that you said I thought was wonderful was that God is the inventor of joy. Again, when it comes to heaven and hell, heaven was created for us, whether we choose to go there or not, but he is the inventor of joy, and heaven isn't good because we get to do whatever we want. It's good because of God's presence. And I love that idea, and just kind of talk about that for a minute, and then we'll get into working in heaven.
Yeah. I think that we think of God as a killjoy. I think when you're young and you want to try sowing your oats in sin and stuff, you're like, oh, God wants to just stop me from having fun. And fun is good. It's just not good outside of its bounds, right? It's not like sex is good, but it's not good outside of the marriage covenant in which it was designed for. Pleasure of, like, I believe that certain pleasures are good. Like, I think that you're supposed to have spiritual glories and stuff that are supposed to happen. But you're not supposed to get them through ayahuasca. You're not supposed to get them through marijuana or LSD. You're supposed to get them through the presence of the Lord.
Okay, so can we just go back for a second? Because we skipped over. So I don't remember what the fill in the blank is because I'm not really a filler in the blanker kind of a person. But
ask Brent. He always gets them right.
Oh, yeah, I'll get it wrong. I'll tell you what it is.
You said you were talking about Revelation 21:3. The dwelling place of God is with man. I just want to read it really quick because I just think it's incredible. I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, "Look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them, and they will be his people. God himself will be with them." And then it goes on to even more amazing stuff. But, and then you were talking about the resonance on a glass
harmonic
cup
resonance.
or something. Yeah, and, shattering. And, basically, as human beings, you were using it as a picture of, when we're in God's presence, it's like that. There's this harmonic resonance and when we get in God's presence, it's going to be so satisfied. We're going to realize we were made for that.
Yes.
And I thought that was such a good image. I was really overwhelmed by it, actually.
All these word studies on all the terms, I hesitate to use orgasmic and stuff, but it's these are all the terms we use for ecstasy, highs, all this spiritual engagement. And it's all boiled into the concept of pleasure and joy before the Lord. And that's where I was and the part that I think really got me jazzed, and this happened in first service because I hadn't really thought of it this way. I said, we're going to be in front of the Lord and you're going to be overwhelmed by his. I'm like, no, you're not. I think of overwhelmed as a negative emotion. Right? I think of it as I'm just going to crumble and I can't just sit here, gelled out. No. It's the opposite of overwhelmed. It's over empowering. It's over joy. The word overwhelm, I don't think it necessarily ever applies to that, but I'd have to look it up. And so I'm going to back off that a little bit. But the idea to me was when Oholiab is given the power in the book, in I believe it's in Exodus, to create the parts of the temple, the Spirit of God comes upon him and his gifts are enhanced. When the Spirit of God comes into the church, our giftedness is oftentimes our normal skills enhanced. And sometimes our weakness is flipped. I look at Paul and he says, I am made strong in my weakness. God shows up as more powerful. His wisdom is greater than our foolishness. There's our foolishness, or whatever. His foolishness is greater than our wisdom. There's this sense that when we're in God's presence, he is the abundance infinite of intelligence, of creativity, of song, you name it, of joy.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking when you were sharing that is I've talked with a couple of our kids about insecure people, and they'll demean people, they'll push you down, and one of our kids is having a hard time with some people kind of making him feel bad about some things in his life. And I said, oh, that's because they're insecure. And I was trying to explain, when you're secure in yourself, there's just no need to put anybody down, because you feel completely content with who you are, and you're able to see the good in them and be no, I see this in you and I want to pull that out in you. And so
they're not a threat.
They're not a threat. And so I feel like God is the most secure being, and he's going to, in his security, draw out all the good in us, right?
Yeah, it's I mentioned it earlier, there is cases where amazing actors or actresses are doing their part, but they're not arrogant. And as they're doing their part, they actually end up helping the others and draw out a better performance from people. I can remember playing basketball, and when I would play against somebody who was better than me, but was not a cocky show off. Sometimes you try harder because they're a cocky show off. You want to try to put them in a hole, but that's not what I'm talking about. There are times where you're playing somebody who's genuinely better than you, and you're just but they're doing stuff, and you're oh, they're up in your game. We call that. They're inspiring you. They're motivating you. They're making you better. And sometimes you play a really bad team and you lose to the bad team because you're just not trying hard enough, kind of thing. And I think when you're in the presence of God, you leave going like you've been with the best teacher, with a great coach. You're inspired. You feel more knowledgeable. You feel more ready. You're I gotta go. I got this great idea. I think it'll be this synergy.
It'll be fuel.
Yeah, fuel. Yeah. It is the fuel for everything that we will do in heaven. because and what we will share with each other is birthed from that fuel. Right. In fact, one of the craziest things about this is those who are going to be blessed, I believe, with the greatest reward, and I think this is what the apostles and stuff are going to have for their faithfulness, and those who are martyrs and things. There's this promise given in Revelation that's really strange, and I've never quite understood it. It's to the church in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is the one place that doesn't get a negative, right? He tells them, behold, I know your works. I've opened a door. No one can shut it. I know you have little power, and yet you've kept my word. You've not denied my name. Behold, I'll make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews or who are not, but lie. Behold, I'll make them come and bow down at your feet. They'll learn that I have loved you. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial that's coming in the whole world. I'll try those who dwell on the earth. I'm coming soon. Hold fast to what you have, so that no one may seize your crown. The one who conquers, and then he says this, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it. And I will write on him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. He who has ear, let him hear. Like, a pillar doesn't move. The gift that these people are being promised is they never leave the presence. Like, they're just going to be in the city, be in the presence of God like a pillar, always with him. Like, what is that going to be like? I mean, like, maybe that sounds boring to some people, but I'm just like, that sounds incredible. Like, it's just, it's incomprehensible to always have the ecstasy, to always have the joy, to ever have God as your fellowship with you. You don't even have to leave. Your time's not up. I think there are going to be people who get in with the smell of smoke. They get to go see God once in a great, great while. I think that's kind of how the reward system might end up working.
And
I always felt jealous of Enoch.
He was walking with God.
He was just walking with God, and then God's like, I want you with me.
Yep.
And I always look at, like, being in the presence of God is, understanding that God is infinite, right? And there's no amount of finite can compare, right? But you think of, like, these wonderful places in the world, Niagara Falls, the Grand Canyon, all these other landmarks that people will travel thousands of miles to go and just view and then stand, like, breathless, in awe of this thing, for what be a relatively short period of time. But, you'd stand there like, wow. And the more glorious it is, the more time you want to sit there, And I just can't imagine being in the presence of God, you have no breath. It's been taken away. You just stand in awe, and it's like, I never want to leave it. And I don't, I can't even get to the bottom of the beauty of what's before me. And, so there is that part that's just, I never want to leave here, and it happens in our lives now too, where a moment will come and it's just like, I never want this to end. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. That's what it is.
I think really quick, when I don't know if you brought up the marriage thing and, like, there's no marriage in heaven, and so that means that there's no sex. I thought I actually turned all my alarms off. And one of the things, like, that I think that a lot of young people, that makes them sad, and then people that are married that have great marriages, sometimes the first idea is like, oh, that kind of makes me sad. And, you discussed that we'll still know each other, and it's not like that relationship is going to be gone. But I think one of the conclusions that I've come to as I've gotten older and the more I've known God, and just kind of, like, really quick putting a pin in it and, like, dealing with the idea that there's no sex in heaven, is that, like, God's the one that came up with sex, and, like, we're going to be in his presence. I fully trust him that whatever he has prepared for us is way better.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that is going to be hard to give up.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then
on that note.
No, I mean, like, it just leads me into the work stuff. Like, I just think that this idea of God making you better makes work make sense. Because you were kind of struggling with the work thing, right? Before you kind of brought it up.
Not necessarily struggling with work, because, I mean, you look at the garden and, God told Adam, hey, tend the earth, and subdue it and do all that. So it's not like the work thing, but I don't look at work like being work like here, where there's commerce tied to it, right? Where you have to, I think of heaven as freedom, right? Where I can go and I can explore and And it's not like, oh, I got to be back Monday because, I got to punch the clock and earn money so I can support my family. I feel like it's more work like Adam would do, where you're going through the garden and everything's there for you. And yeah, you got to pull the fruit and eat the fruit and, prepare meals and do that kinds of things. But you could do that anywhere. And it's not tied to a schedule or commerce. And I want to do that, but I can't afford it.
There's not stress involved.
Yeah, there's not the stress and the burdensomeness of work. It's a freedom in work,
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of debate about whether there's money actually in eternity or not, because there is time and there is valuation. It's the question of, will it be put in the right modes or the wrong modes? There won't be greed. Somebody's going to care how much I have or how little I have, and maybe it's not going to be like, I want this money, I want this stuff, and maybe there's no money at all there, but there is some kind of valuation that we give. And so I have to go back to, like, it's relational, right? It's back into, we're all family. So when I have kids, right, it doesn't mean my kids don't have anything that's theirs. I think there's possessions in eternity. I don't think that there will be private property, private possessions in eternity. And we won't want to steal it from each other. We'll be glad because otherwise there's no valuation in giving a gift to one another. There's no valuation of using my skills for you. If you're just if we become all capable of doing all the same things, just as skilled as everybody else, what do we have to give to one another? What do we have to learn about each other?
That would actually be really boring.
Right.
Honestly, if everybody was
there
capable of the exact same thing and we're all doing the same thing, and that sounds.
I don't know. You'd be doing the same thing.
That sounds terrible.
But there wouldn't be. It wouldn't be like, oh, I want to do this. I can't afford it. So I got to buckle down and work and be able to afford that. I feel like it'd be more reciprocal, relationships in that regard.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to be attached to God's calling. I think that we're not just going to be randomly running around doing whatever we want. I think that it'll be associated to God's like, hey, God has kind of called us to do this. This is going to be super exciting, almost like global projects at times, or not individual projects, but we're kind of working together in this whole house of a family. And sometimes he's calling us all together for something. Sometimes there's these projects going on somewhere else. We all get the benefit of it as a joy and celebrating those things. Like, I do think there will be like cultural works that are made. How the nations work that out and how that works as family units in those ways, I don't know, but they're clearly there. And so there is this development of your music. Like, you'll be on a rock band again and flowing your hair.
With your hair.
It'll be back. And so, like, without the fear of it being, with it promoting an aspect of music.
And I'll be able to sing.
Yeah. I mean, there's healings and transformations and just the, I don't know why the more I've gotten into it, the more I'm like, I don't know why there wouldn't be the opportunity to return to the ability, like, if something in me is not capable
of, I'm
going to be able to dance.
Yeah.
It still may look awkward, but I'm going to be able to dance because that's just who I am. And I think that there's a part of me that kind of doesn't want to be able to fully be able to dance. I'd like to learn it better, but I'm going to be me. So it's going to, and I think.
Is that why so I'm just going to like.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, when we were first married, I am like tone deaf. And I cannot sing. And I've tried and I've gotten lessons and like I cannot sing. So when we were first married, he told me, I made some kind of a comment like, well, at least in heaven I'll be able to sing. And he's like, I don't know, like you might not be able to. And it was crushing because I love music. I absolutely love music. It's like one of my highest loves in life.
I am a jerk of a husband. Unlike Brent.
Luckily, I'm pretty strong, so I can handle it. But it did make me sad, like, because I'm like, oh, I've always looked forward to being able to, like, finally actually sing a song and not.
You know what, though? I think if you sing in heaven, we would understand your heart in that, and we wouldn't necessarily hear the notes in that, So I think it would be beautiful. Like when your kid scribbles on a piece of paper and says, I did this for you, and you hang it on the fridge and go, that's so beautiful.
Being somebody that can't sing, one of my least favorite moments in a worship service is when the worship leaders point the mic. I cannot stand it. Because like the only reason that's keeping me singing is hearing their voices.
Well, and you know who loves it? All of us who can sing because we're arrogant and we all want to be heard.
Yeah,
so.
I'm like, why are you doing this to me? You're torturing me.
No. I have adjusted that viewpoint because I do think that there are like a reset of things. Like, why would God put it in our hearts to do these things? Like, do I think that
I don't want to be the most amazing singer.
No, you just want to be able to.
Actually...
I just want a gold album. I just want a
No,
gold album
I think
because I need money in heaven. I'll work on the
For all the things I'm gonna buy.
It's not about that. It's about sharing these things with each other because you've done them for the Lord. And so it may be that I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. But there is an evaluation of time and effort, and these things are going to be there. How that works out, I'm not sure. There's appreciation. I put it back into my home. I look back at how we work and like I think there's a vision in our hearts for our kids. Like, man, we want you to encourage each other. When you see they've done something cool, let's all be amazed at it. And like when one of our kids makes food, it's like, well, don't critique it necessarily. Like, let's enjoy it first. And then if they want to know how to grow, we can help them. Like there's kind of a sense of purity about the whole thing and not
camaraderie.
Yeah. And if like, cause I'm not I get it. It's not communist. Like, I don't want to endorse this concept because it's a godless concept, but it is familial.
Is it really a godless concept, or is it just a unworkable concept because of the fall of man?
No, it is a godless concept. Communism is a godless concept in the sense that it eliminates the family. It's non-familial.
And I'm not thinking like communist. I'm thinking like
socialism.
You're thinking
commune where the community all serves each other.
You're thinking family. Yeah. That's why I call it. It's got to be familial. We need to drop communitarianism. Communal. It's familial because otherwise, communes and stuff fall into weird junk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They fall into because sex gets involved and garbage gets involved and who gets the money and the power. No. The only way you have purity is when we're family.
And when we're all giving willingly. So it's still a choice. You're not being forced. It's not,
Yeah, and that's why I said not communist, because that's a forced thing. And then you got the corruption, and the leaders are rich, and everybody else is suffering.
Yeah.
Where,
not that God and Jesus ain't the richest beings ever. Like, that's the thing. There is richer, there are better, there are rewarded people. Like, it's not milquetoast equality. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not equity in eternity.
And God gives us gifts in heaven, right? So, like, if he doesn't own anything, then he owns everything, right? And he's sharing with us.
Mm-hmm. It's our inheritance, too, at the same time. So there's this, it is just not, it's an area for exploration and meditation.
Okay. So we got a couple of questions to get to before we completely run out of time. So question number 1, and this is from, who was it? I don't think I wrote down their name. Doggone it. Okay. Is it true that a transformative relationship with... Oh, this is Mike. Mike wrote this question. Is it true that a transformative relationship with Jesus is not based on a relationship with the church or religion, but only with Christ?
No.
Okay. And I kind of wrote down, and I said this. If you're asking, can you be saved and not go to church? Okay. I'll give you that. You can be saved and not go to church. But I do think many Christians believe that their relationship with Christ is a personal relationship. That's not really what the Bible teaches, right? It's personal in the sense that God holds each of us accountable to what we've done in light of his son, but it's never meant to be personal in the sense of void of community. So, right?
Yeah,
I don't even think we can live out the Christian life.
And you're not supposed to forsake the...
So let me put it this way, because there's 2 ways I can read this. Is it true that a transformative relationship with Jesus Christ is not based on a relationship with church or religion, but only with Christ? If we're talking about, like you said, is it true that a transformative relationship with Jesus Christ is not based, meaning that you have to have a relationship with the church or religion to be in a relationship with Jesus, aka saved? Right, we would say no, you have to trust in Jesus. But a relationship with Jesus will bring you to a relationship with church and religion. Because you're saved into the church. Right. You are not saved to a personalized relationship with Jesus. You are saved into a corporate relationship with Jesus that manifests personally and corporately. I did it this way, and it's dark moments in my own life thinking about if I was just abandon everything and walk away, and just those times, I don't know, maybe you guys never get there. It came down to the Lord was just well, where would you go? Well, I would be with you and just me and you. And he'd say, okay. And then guess what? Me and you, to be right, you would then return to your wife and you would be with her, and then you and your wife would be with your kids, and then you would be at church, and you would be there serving. Maybe I wouldn't be the pastor, but I would be serving in the church. I'd be part of the church environment, and I would have a job to support my family. Like if I had a real relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like these all go together. Like, can I be a Christian? And can I really have a transformative relationship with Jesus and not provide for my family? No. You're as good as a non-believer, it says. Can I be in a situation where, like, now we're not talking about transitional transformation, but we're talking about, like, you can't claim you're with Christ and hate the church. Mm-hmm. You can't claim you're with Christ and not want to take communion or be baptized or engage in worship or these things that have been known in the church. Like, being in the Word of God and being in a relationship with Jesus would lead you to all these things. And so the part that changes the main answer to this is a transformative relationship with Christ. No, it's not based on a relationship with the church, but it's not apart from a relationship with the church.
Yeah. And I kind of look at it this way. You know, when you receive Christ as your Lord and Savior, there's that personal moment, but you are saved to the church, right? You know, the global church. And church, you know, is broken down into smaller, you know, regional, local churches, but it's Christianity isn't an individual sport; it is a team sport, right? And God has called the church to basically make Him known through the way that we love each other, care for one another, and we're His representatives on this earth. And we do that as a community, and you can't go, I'm part of the team, but I'm never going to practice with the team. I'm never going to engage on game day. I'm never going to.
Well, and also one of the main ways that He changes us is through our relationships with each other. Like we don't get, I'm trying not to use the word sanctified. So
no, it's okay.
But that is the main, you know, the way that we're sanctified in Christ is through the interaction with each other.
And one of the things too,
sin is against people, sanctification is with people.
Okay, and with any analogy, right, there's flaws. So I get that. So I know that there's room for pushback on this. But I used to always talk about this in light of marriage, right? You know, God created Adam, and then He created Eve as a helpmate, right? And Adam's purpose was basically, you are representing me. You are my image bearer through all creation, right? And now I'm going to create this helpmate for you. And it wasn't like, okay, she's your helpmate, so she's going to watch the kids and do the dishes while you fulfill this purpose of representing me. No, it was, she's going to help you fulfill that purpose. And you're going to help each other fulfill that purpose.
You're going to help her fulfill that purpose.
So you are helping each other fulfill that purpose. And so I always kind of mention that, like, I feel like marriage is that sanctified place where God does a great work in you. Because I think that if you are a single person, and I'm not like totally dissing the single life, but if you're a single person, you can look at yourself and go, I am generous, I help people, I do all of this stuff, and I sacrifice for people. But the truth is, you only have to do that when you want to do that, right? When you're married, you have to do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you feel like it or not. And in that marriage, I think you learn things about your own sinfulness through that relationship that pops up, and it gives you that opportunity to deal with it or coddle your sin, you know? And I think, again, when you're in relationship with others at church, that works that self out too, where, you know, it forces you to think more than just yourself and be part of a community, and it exposes areas in your heart that God wants to deal with as well.
Yeah, another way of analogizing this is Theressa and I, our first love in our marriage or in our family is to each other. I don't love my children before I love my wife.
You can just stop right there.
Yeah, and I can't finish the sentence.
I don't even like comparing it. But keep going.
My point is, it's our love is then together. Our first love together is at our children. So my relationship with Jesus is primary, and from that relationship, we love each other. Mm-hmm. So it can't go, I love others, therefore see I love God. It's no, I love God in such a manner that I end up loving other people. It's our love together that creates a love in me for others. And so that's why I just don't think you can get rid of the church at all. And it's just gone are the days where we can go, I'm a Christian, I don't need the church. That's just not how the Bible is written.
And here's another question from Lisa. Welcome back, Lisa. I know you haven't sent in a question in a long time.
Well, a couple times.
So good for you. Missed you. Okay, Lisa says, first I have to say, I'm reading this part. It's not part of the question, but it talks about me. So,
Go for it, Brent.
Yeah, first I have to say that the podcast moment about the mercury had me cracking up. That was hilarious. Brent is a survivor. Yes, I am.
We're not
and I'm
so
glad,
sure how much he survived.
yes, but I'm glad you thought it was funny. Secondly, what's the difference between our soul and our spirit, if there is a difference? And third, what was the name of the podcast or the book about the near-death experience that you mentioned in your sermon? Thank you. Now, here's the thing. I know we've talked about this numerous times, Greg, and you're kind of a dichotomist. And I don't know that I land fully on the dichotomist position because maybe I don't understand it well. But, I feel like, and I don't know how heretical it is, but I kind of feel like I might lean on the trichotomist position, and maybe that's because I don't fully understand it. But I feel as though we were created with three aspects of our being, our body, our soul, and our spirit. And part of the reason I believe that is we were created in God's image, and I get we have limited capacities, but we're created in God's image, and He is a Trinitarian being. So the trichotomy thing lines up with that. But also the passages that talk about, 1 Thessalonians, where it says, may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless. And in Hebrews, talks about the Word of God divides the soul and the spirit, So why would you divide something that's just one thing?
Right.
It's not cuts it in half. It's dividing the two.
So the answer to that is so I am a dichotomist. Actually, I'm what we would call a unitarian dichotomist in the sense that the body and the soul are so integrated that it is not right. The body dies because we leave, but the soul or spirit doesn't die, but it longs to be returned to the body. We're only truly human when we're integrated. So there's not even any reason to talk about the separations of these things. The point in the Hebrews passage is that the scriptures is dividing down to the very aspects of who you are. It's really challenging you to the core of you. That's what he's getting at. It's a rhetorical way of talking about it. The whole of who you are, down to the nitty gritty. And so thank you, Nacho. And so the point is there that again, when it does the Thessalonians is it's a concept, I believe it's called henideus, which is you lay out these things to kind of bring out the full inclusion. Otherwise, now you're into love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So now we've got 4 parts and a body. So now we're 5 cotomists.
Well, your strength is in your body. Well, my spirit can't lift anything.
The problem is that in the Greek understanding of the texts and the Hebrew, that the soul is the catch-all term. Soul can be used for your body and soul can be used for your spirit. So it's an interchangeable terminology. Oftentimes it means the fusion of body and spirit. You are a soul. Spirit is not used ever for the body, and body is never used for the spirit, but the soul is mixed. So this is where dichotomists go the soul is the catch-all term, and it's used interchangeably with spirit or with body. Spirit is referencing either Spirit of God and the animation he brings into our lives, or the fact that we breathe. Things that have spirit breathe, they have breath. And then the body, obviously, is when it has a breath, it becomes a soul. Otherwise, it's a corpse or a body. And that is a differentiation also between spirit and the flesh, right? So those are aspects that are spiritually distinct. So these are all concepts that don't hold to a clear, they don't hold to a clear it's 3 parts. That never actually works that way. No, you could argue it, but you have a lot of other verses that mess that up. And dichotomy, it's not trying to say you are 2 parts. It's just saying that the Bible describes us as a spiritual being and a physical being that is fused together, and we're not to be broken apart. And so part of that spiritual aspect could be called the soul, it could be called the spirit, it could be called the nous, the mind, it could be called the evil part of that could be called the flesh, which is more akin to the body. But so there's just these distinctions that are not a one-to-one. So that's why I'm not a trichotomist. It's too clean. Actually, it has nothing to do with being in the Trinitarian image. It just has to do with the way the words are used in the Greek. So,
do you think that the soul and spirit being different is a heretical view, or is it
no? It's just a different view. It's within orthodoxy. It gets out of orthodoxy. It does get
That was
out.
close to Brent.
It does get out of orthodoxy when people start to use it as the spirit. You're dead until the Spirit of God comes in you. Now the Spirit of God who is within you is your spirit. And so your soul, there's some Pentecostal stuff that gets off into some wonky directions where we start almost being like God creatures infused by God. And so it's like that's where trichotomy starts getting a little like, I think you're taking it too far. So,
all right. Wow.
And
Welcome
the near-death,
back.
the podcast. Sean McDowell is the podcast, and you can just scroll through his podcast stuff, and you'll run into a whole bunch of times he talks about near-death experiences. Sean's got probably the largest amount of interviews on the subject, and that'll lead you to all the different books. So,
and movies.
And
There's
movies.
some movies
Yeah.
too.
So it's I would just go to Sean McDowell's podcast, scroll through that for the near-death experience interviews, or go to his YouTube channel and watch them. They're stellar. He does great interviews. Staple.
Sean McDowell, near-death experiences on YouTube and
or on his podcast on
his
Apple
podcast.
or wherever you listen to your podcast. But wherever you're listening to your podcast, we're glad that you joined us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for hanging in with us. We're glad you guys joined us. We would love your questions. Thank you for all of you who sent in questions. Just if you'd like to send in your question, let us know at rabbittrail@obcc.church, rabbittrail@obcc.church, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Jacob, our producer. Thank you, Dale, for all the hard work you do in getting it prepped and getting it out there. And we're all glad that you joined with us. We hope that you guys have a great rest of the week. And because we're doing this before Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day.
God bless.